We are going to get started on Copilot with my colleague Alexandra Pickett, Director of Online Teaching. I'm Erin Maney, the Community Engagement Manager, and we're pleased that you could be with us today. So we are all set. Alex, I'm going to turn it over to you.
Awesome. Can you see my screen, Amy?
Yeah, looks very inviting.
Oh, good. So yeah, we're taking a deep dive into Copilot today. Thank you for joining and spending your lunch here with us. I'm excited to talk to you today about Microsoft Copilot. My name is Alejandra Pickett. I am also known as Alex, and I use she, her, aya pronouns. I am, as Erin said, the Director of Online Teaching here at SUNY Online. I'm also have been an adjunct in the Department of Education Theory and Practice at UAlbany and have taught an online course, Introduction to Online Teaching, for many years. And I'm also a PhD candidate and about to defend my dissertation on April 28th, and I was up until 5 a.m. last night. I'm very excited to be here. And at some point, if you're interested in my dissertation topic, I love talking about that too, but I'm very excited to talk with you today about Microsoft Copilot. If you'd introduce yourself in the chat, I would love to know your name, your institution, and a little bit about your feelings around AI in education. I want to recognize that in the room we probably have a great diversity of people from diversity of institutions, and we all have our feelings about lots of different things. And so I just want to recognize the diversity that we may have in the room of feelings about AI. The fact that you're here today means that you're interested, but that also, I just want to nod to the so concerns or questions or excitement that you might have around the use of AI in education. And in particular in online education. So I'm going to try and frame a lot of what we talk about today from those perspectives. Please ask questions if you have them. And so I'll just get us started with what we're going to do today. So I'm going to give you an sort of like an intro to the tool. We're going to talk about how to get started and the input interface and the output interface, give you a little bit of a tour about that. I'm going to talk about the chat and the prompts. I'm going to give a bunch of examples and some suggestions and best practices and cautions. And hopefully, if we have time, we can practice a little bit. I can have you try it out a little bit, and then there'll be hopefully some time for question and answer. I want to disclose that I created this presentation using using Copilot, Microsoft Copilot, and this tool Haiku Deck was recommended to me by Copilot as the tool to use to develop these slides. And so the images and stuff that I have in here are directly from that tool. So let's do the intro. It's a Microsoft product. So Microsoft Copilot is really an AI powered tool that functions like an assistant, and it uses OpenAI's GPT-4 model and provides a conversational chat interface that lets you search for specific information or generate responses and text, and you can even create images based on text prompts. Copilot, in my opinion, can help. And part of the reason I'm doing this is because I have used it every day for a year. And it has helped me to be more productive. It has helped me save time. And it has helped me to learn in terms of the various interactions that I've had with it. I've had the opportunity to use it as a sounding board for brainstorming and so forth. And it's helped me to focus and learn on the different prompts that I have interacted with it on. I think that it can help online faculty and instructional designers improve your drafts of things and brainstorm ideas and solutions to challenges that you might have. So that's part of the reason that I'm here today talking about this tool and giving you an overview of it so that you can check it out and see if you might be able to leverage it to help you in some of these ways. So as I mentioned, you can use it for drafting. You can use it to search for things and refine those searches to find the relevant information, like a souped up Google, right? You can do the same thing in Google, but this is kind of more targeted and refined in terms. You can keep asking it further questions to refine your search. And then the other thing is, the more that you use it, the better that it gets at predicting and doing the things that you want it to do, that you're asking it to do, and it kind of learns within a chat what you're actually going for in that particular chat, and it will continue to understand that and refine that as you proceed with your prompts. All right, so let's do a little tour of the interface. So what I'd like you to do is to go to copilot.microsoft.com, and I'm going to escape out of my situation here and go to Microsoft Copilot. Well, I'm going to put this one in the chat. And I also had copilot.microsoft.com. And thank you, Erin. And so you'll get to this page, and it'll ask you to sign in, and you can sign in with your SUNY work email. You can see that over here in the right-hand corner, it recognizes me, and I'm connected to it through my suny.edu email address. So this is the first sort of key interface, which is the input field. Down here at the bottom, there's this box that says "Ask me anything." So this is where you type your questions or your instructions or your prompts, and it understands natural language. So you can ask it questions or give commands or just talk to it like you would a person, or you could even, talk to it like it's not a person. So often I'll throw a paragraph in and I'll just say, "Fix this." And, sometimes I say, "Please." Often I don't, because I'm trying to do it quickly. But you can also be more targeted with your prompt and say, "Fix the punctuation and grammar in this," or "Remove redundancy," or "Improve the tone, logic, and flow," or "Say this in a less mean and snarky way." So you can talk to it just like you, depending on what it is that you're trying to get it to do for you. So these little boxes that you see that appear on the Copilot page before you actually initiate a chat, these little boxes here, they are prompts, and they can help you with your prompts, with what you ask it to do, and make it easier to get started. So you can try one of those if you're new to this. I want to point out that you can also attach a file down here at the bottom. I'm mousing over this little paper clip, and it says "Add a file." So you could attach a file to Copilot for various tasks that you might be asking it to do. The supported formats are docx, MD, PDF, and TXT. And each file can be up to 10 megs for licensed users. I'm not sure what the unlicensed user limit is. And you have a total of 2 gigabytes limit per day, upload limit. And so if you upload a file, It can summarize it, it can explain it, it can expand it, it can translate it, it can fact check the content. And just so that you know, images like JPEGs or PNGs are not currently supported. So if you I don't think it'll actually let you upload one, but if you wanna, if you give it a URL and say describe the image that's on this page, it's not going to be able to do that for you, and it's not going to be able to do image descriptions in any file format. So there are some character limits, and that's character limits in terms of the prompt, the actual input field here. And if you have a licensed version, your limit will be 16,000 characters. For the unlicensed version, the limit is 8,000 characters. And it kind of will vary. It automatically will determine that if your prompt is, it kind of falls into three categories: creative, precise, or balanced. And for the creative and precise ones, the limit is 8,000 or 16,000, depending on your license. And for the balanced mode, it's less, it's 4,000 characters. So just be aware that there are character limits, and it's going to tell you what your character limits are as you type your prompt. And if you exceed the character limit, it'll also tell you that, and by how much you've exceeded it, it'll show up in a little red indicator down at the bottom of the prompt field. So it also has a response limit indicator. So within each chat that you initiate, there are a total of 30 responses that you can have within the individual chat, and it gives you a countdown. So like if you've used 19 of the chats, or if you've talked to it, sent prompts 19 times, it'll say you have used 19 of the 30 maximum responses. So once you reach that limit, it'll tell you reached your limit, and you can continue just by starting up a new chat to continue the conversation. It does not remember from chat to chat. So if you need it to have context in order to continue a chat, you'll have to either copy and paste or reframe your prompt to give it the context it needs to continue the chat that you're having. So when you want to submit a question, um, um, I'm going to just type the word question in here. Down here at the bottom, there's this little, it looks kind of like an arrow, but it's a send icon, and it's meant to be a paper airplane. Copilot told me it's a paper airplane. And so in order to submit your prompt, you just hit the little paper thing, and then it responded. So there's my prompt here at the top, and then here's Copilot's response, and then there's a bunch of different options here. So let me see, where am I? Oh, I don't know if you noticed, but I'm going to do this again. It's going to say stop generating a response. So because you only have 30 within the chat, if you ask the wrong question, or it's not giving you, in your opinion, what you're looking for, you can stop it so that you don't have to burn a response there. And you can see I stopped it. And then you can also opt to regenerate it in case you didn't mean to actually stop it. All right, let's continue on now with the output interface, which is what we're currently looking at. And this is where the responses appear. And so one of the things that I want to point out to you is that there's a copy button here. So if it gave you a response and you like that response and you want to use that elsewhere in an email or in a paper, presentation proposal that you're writing, you could use this copy button, and it'll copy the text for you. And so again, it also tells you, oh, I'm not seeing it here. So yeah, it changed. That's the other thing, they update it all the time. And so things that, so some of the things change a little bit. Like it used to tell you what your number of responses are on every prompt, how many you have left. It's not doing that anymore. It just recently stopped doing that. And it only will tell you when you get close to 30. And I think it's like the countdown is like 10 or 5. It'll say you have 10 responses left, you have 9 responses left. It doesn't do that until you're getting close to the end. And again, if you haven't exceeded the 30, like you can go on to another chat and fire up a new chat and then return to this one, as long as you haven't exceeded that 30 response limit. And so sometimes you can keep multiple chats going at the same time. There are little thumbs up and thumbs down um, icons here that you can click on to help it understand whether the response that it gave you is what you were looking for or not, so that it can better respond to you. And so you can use it. I got to tell you, I really don't often use that unless it's given me something that was really like whack, out of, not at all what I was looking for. I've only done it a couple of times. And then after you ask a question, and you can improve the prompt. You look at what it gives you, and then say, you know, um, refine what you want based on what it gave you. So it may be, I sometimes tell it, no, that's not really what I wanted. Can you focus more on this? Or I'll say, yeah, talk more about that last sentence, and refine that, or make that, more contextually relevant to X, Y, and Z, right? So you can continue a thought with it. That also is important to know, because if you start up a brand new topic with it, it's going to look through the previous prompts that you've given it, and it may carry over something into a response that you didn't intend for it to do. So it's important that you be clear in your prompt. If you're like shifting to kind of a different topic and you don't want it to do that, you just have to tell it not to do that, right? So based on this prompt only, give me X, Y, or Z. Or looking at all of the responses in this particular chat, can you summarize or whatever you want it to do? Prompts and view prompts, there is this little thing down here that if you click on it will give you some additional ideas. So remember those initial boxes when you first started it up, it was like ideas for types of prompts. So that this is a way to access them once you've actually gone into a particular chat. And so it's provides like a gallery and a repository that allows you to look at different types of prompts and get ideas to you know uh, understand and use Copilot a little bit. If you're just starting out, you might want some help with understanding how to engineer your prompts. And then you can also just look at different examples of prompts. Um, I think in the free version, you're not able to save your prompts. So I'm not entirely sure about that, but there is a feature that allows you to save your prompts and share your prompts and explore popular prompts. Depending on your license, you will have access to different aspects of those features. So let's see. Pages. Let's talk about pages. So sometimes you may want to be sort of working on a draft of something while you're also interacting and interfacing with Copilot. So there's this thing called pages. You can take a prompt and turn it into a page that you can then edit and keep, and it actually will open it up Um, uh, can't remember if it's SharePoint or OneDrive. So I'm just going to open mine, and you can see I have a couple of recent pages that I have generated, and here, I'll do this one. So you can see it loads up the page on the right-hand side of the screen, and I can continue to chat with Copilot. And so this was as part of this presentation, I was trying to explain sort of the difference between poor prompts, better prompts, and best prompts. And so a poor prompt would be, in order to develop this page here that you're looking at, I went back and forth with Copilot in order to come up with this. So it didn't do it like what you see here on the right hand side. It didn't come up with that in one fell swoop. I had to refine it. So and this is exactly what I was looking at. Like if you give the prompt dog sit, it's not enough. It's too vague. And so a better prompt would be, how do I train my dog? Um, and then the best prompt would be, how do I train my dog to sit on command? Or even another one I used was to sit on command with step-by-step instructions. That would be a really good prompt, and it will come up with a step-by-step instruction for you, which I'll show you in a minute, actually. All right, what else do I want to tell you? Oh, so the reason you would start, let me get rid of this. The reason that you would start a new chat is, uh, if, as I said, if you want to start a fresh topic without continuing the previous conversation. And so this can help you keep your interactions organized, and help you to continue conversations within particular chats. So if you can see over here on the right hand side, I'm going to close it for a minute. There's this panel that opens and closes, and on the right hand side here you can see some of the questions that I've asked it today. And then you can see over the last 30 days, these are questions that I've asked it in February, questions that I've asked it back in January, some questions that I asked it, and then it's got stuff that I asked back in 2024. Like I said, I've been using this pretty much every day since March last year. So that's how you would track and organize. You can delete chats if there's one that you really don't want to keep. You might want to delete it. It says Copilot told me that it stores your history for 30 days, but you can see in mine, and we don't have a premium license. It has my stuff all the way back to when I first started using it still. I don't, at some point or another, it may get rid of them. So anything that I want to keep, I copy and paste out of there. But I think it told me that there is a limit to how many chats can be stored, and that's up to 100. And that older chats might be deleted as new ones are added. And one thing I found, if I delete a chat from the top, and I can go down to the bottom and see a new one. So it's still there, it's just not visible. And there's no way to see the hidden ones. You just have to delete chats if you want to get to one that is, that might still be there. And I guess there's no guarantee that it is actually still there. If you delete it, it can't be recovered. Like I said, you can't really see the hidden chats. And you can reveal and close the panel to extend your input and output fields. I think I mentioned you can't use previous chats automatically. Like you can't you can't refer to a previous chat automatically and say like, go look at this other chat and come back and tell me something else, or summarize these 5 chats that we had. No, it can't do that. You would have to give it context and summary and copy and paste stuff into it in order for it to be able to refer to the stuff that you might have discussed or brainstormed with it previously. So you'd have to do that in a new chat. Um, all right, so we already talked about that. Let's look at so this note, it has to do with the interface, is designed to have interactive conversation. So you can ask questions, request assistance with tasks, or engage in a dialogue on various topics. Our system admin version doesn't appear to have a mode selector, but your interface may have a mode selector. And like I mentioned, it was creative, precise, and balanced responses with different limitations in terms of the input field. Ours doesn't appear to have that, and it may be that it automatically detects now which one and decides, which mode to apply. Copilot wasn't totally clear on that when I asked it about that, because it used to be that you could actually select the mode that you wanted. But that selection is either not there now because of the license we have, or not there now because it has absorbed that and is doing that more automatically. But it will do creative responses, and a creative response can be generated by saying something like, write a short story or a poem or lyrics. A more precise response might be using the word summarize, like summarize the key points of something. And if you want a more balanced response, you might combine like both of those elements and say, explain the concept of transactional distance in online education, and make some just suggestions to mitigate that. So that's a more sort of, it's going to be both creative and precise. So again, there's limits in terms of the output as well as the input. And if you exceed the output limit, so if what you give it needs to generate more than whatever the limit is, the response will be truncated. So you'll notice that it looks like, the bottom half of it got cut off. And another thing that I've seen it do is that it hangs. So, if it can't produce what, if it's going over that limit and it can't produce it, the interface will hang. And so you'll just need to either start up a new chat or refresh the page to continue that particular chat. So to avoid those issues about the character limits, in both input and in output, you can break down your prompts into smaller parts. You can also prioritize key information to make sure that, the most important stuff that you're looking for is what's included. And then you can always ask follow-up questions to get additional information. And one of the things that I hit upon, because up until like a couple of weeks ago, I used to have 16,000 word limit in my input chat box. It's now 8,000, and I don't know what changed. It's probably due to licensing or something. I don't know. But what I learned was that I can string multiple chats together. So I can put a bunch of text in up to 8,000 characters and then say, wait, I'm going to give you 3 prompts. Wait for the last prompt to do anything, something like that. And so it'll accept the first prompt and say, okay, I'm waiting for your third one. And then it'll accept the second one. And then for the third one, I'll put the actual instruction. Now take all of the stuff together and give me the themes out of it or something, right? So that's one way to get around it. The other way to get around the limit is to put the text into a Word doc and attach the file. And then it can actually read that file, and it'll then work on whatever the prompt is that you give it for that particular file. So I'm going to go to an example that I set up. I preset this up to show you some examples of the different type of response prompts and responses that I got. So I asked it, my prompt is describe our solar system. And so this is the response that it gave me. And you can see next to each of these numbers, there's a little number, and if I mouse over it, it tells me what the source of that information is. So, and it kind of aggregates the sources. Down here at the bottom, you can see here are all of the sources, and I can go to them and check them out. And in fact, this used even more. I can go to all of the main sources and check, confirm, or otherwise interact with the main source of the information. But it gives me a nice summary of the elements of our solar system, and then places to go look for more information. Um, the next one I have, especially for my friend Erin, who probably has a better recipe than this, but I asked to provide a recipe for a gluten-free chocolate cake. And so it gave me the recipe. There's all the ingredients, and it's, as you can see, it's conversational. It's suggesting that Erin might love this recipe. And it'll use little, emoticons and stuff too. So you sort of start to develop a little feelings about it. um, and then there's the instructions, and then some frosting, and it's got the whole, there's like a little icon there, the whole recipe for it. So you can use it for stuff like that. And in addition to recipes, you could, ask it for steps in the process, those kinds of things too. You can also ask it to do some creative stuff like generate a short poem. I asked it, my prompt was generate a short poem about the State University of New York. And so it gave me this. And if you are looking for some inspiration, or wanting to generate something cold, you can give it those kinds of prompts to do some creative drafting or brainstorming for you, to give you some ideas. And then you can always refine it. If you don't like something, you can say, instead of this, try that, or do it in iambic pentameter, or make it into a sonnet, or I asked it to do a haiku about SUNY Online. And my prompt was, can you write a haiku about SUNY Online? It has the ability to go out and search the internet. So I didn't have to give it a lot of detail about SUNY Online. It kind of went out there and did a quick check and came back with this little haiku, which I thought was kind of cute. So you can also so that was content generation. You can also do analytical and conversational content. So you can ask it to analyze the 23-24 data and provide insights regarding online education in the US. So that was like a cold question, like go out and search for this information and come back and bring me what you find. And again, it has references that it uses. That was Forbes Advisor. I think it relied primarily on that. It looks like, oh, here's another one. This is some kind of report on the condition of education, which looks like a national report. And here are the two reports that it used. And so here's like, if I wanted to take this and start turning this into an environmental scan, let's say, I could edit this in Pages, and that will bring up that other page that is then found under this little icon here, that gets saved to my OneDrive or Share Drive or whatever, and continue to work on that environmental scan using this information. I can copy the text and paste it into Word. I can share the prompt or copy the response, and I can vote on it. And so, so yeah, so that's more of a, you know, um, kind of an analytical content where it's going out and finding information and coming back and presenting it in kind of a report type of a way. It also can do kind of more conversational content. So, for example, I asked what the weather was like in Fiji, and specifically in Suva, and so it gave me the weather, and then it gave me the you know, place to go look at the weather if I wanted to check, check that. um, and then it also can generate code and snippets of various programming languages, and it can fix code or like bug check stuff. So I asked it to generate a Python function to calculate the factorial of a number. Um, and this is what it gave me. Um, so honestly, I don't know what that is. I actually asked it to give me a good question, and that's what it gave me. So I would have to have somebody who knows what this is check this to make sure that it's actually accurate. But it can do that. It's designed to work on code, and has, it's a lot of people use it for that purpose. So, if you're teaching online and teaching different programming languages, this might be a way to either check your own work or to bug check work or to ask students to play with it in order to, to do the various things that you might be wanting them to do. I also asked it to generate some HTML code for accordions with an accordion with 5 sections. And so, if you don't know what that is, it's just when you look at a website and it has sort of like places where you can click on something and it expands, and then if you click it on again, it contracts. So I asked it to do one of those, but with 5 little accordions. And so this is the HTML code for that. So you could just grab this code, throw it into a WordPress, let's say, or into Brightspace, and it will generate that accordion for you. Of course, in Brightspace, they already have a way to do that automatically, so you wouldn't really need to do it in Brightspace. But if you wanted something fancy in HTML for your course or for your blog or your website, you can ask Copilot to generate the code for you. Let's see. So another thing that I wanted to show you is how it will do summaries and translation. So this first prompt was summarize this article, and I gave it a link. And this is Phil Hill, if you're familiar with him, and he talks a lot about online education and LMSs. And so I sent Copilot this URL, and I asked it to summarize it for me, the main themes. And so this is really, really useful when you don't have time to read a whole huge report. You can get a gist by asking it to summarize. And of course, you have to go, if you really need to make sure and understand, you have to go read the original report. But this can get you quick started into giving you a fast overview of what is contained in that website. And then here's another one that I did summarize the attached article, and this is a Chuck Shubin article, who is a well-known researcher in online education out of the University of Central Florida. And so I asked it to take that article. I attached it. I actually attached it. This is an article that he wrote, and I attached it. And then it gave me this summary. And it does a really nice job of summarizing quickly, including the key findings and conclusions. Again, of course, I need to go back to the original in order to make sure that I have the full understanding of the paper, but this is a very quick way to get an overview of what that article is about if I'm pressed for time, or if I'm working on something and just need a gist of what's in that article. I can use that. It can also translate stuff. So I put a paragraph into it and I asked it to translate it into Spanish, and it gave me a very, very good and pretty accurately done, well done translation. It has all the characters and accents and so forth included. And so if you're needing to either translate something that's in another language that you want to read, or if you want to translate something from English into another language, this is a very quick way to do it. Obviously, you can also do it in Google with the Google Translate, but this is another tool that you can use in order to do something like that. So there's ways that Copilot can also help you to to explain things to you. So I think of it as almost a tutor sometimes, where I ask it to help me understand something better or to explain something new. And so I asked the question, can you provide instructions on how to add the pagination feature in the visual table of contents in Brightspace on a course homepage? Because I wanted to know how to do that. I was looking for that feature. I couldn't find it, and I wanted to know and understand how to do it, and it gave me the steps to do that. Now, what I found out after doing this was that that is a setting that you may or may not have access to. So you may follow these instructions as written here and then not be able to actually do this because a global setting might be set that doesn't allow you to do that. And in fact, with this particular feature, Brightspace itself has removed that feature. It's no longer actually available, which is a bummer because that was a really, really cool feature. But anyway, so just keep that in mind. You can ask it to explain something to you, give you step-by-step instructions for it. And again, you have to check. And then you also, when you try it, depending on what you're asking it to do, it may or may not work because there are maybe other, contextual issues that may be in play. All right. So I also another question that I had sort of in the learning vein had so I thought about people with kids and math and helping them with their homework. And so I gave it the prompt of what's the difference between sine and cosine, and is there a good Khan Academy video to explain this? And so it gave me an explanation. And, if I didn't like or understand this, I could refine my prompt and say, wait, I don't understand this at all. Explain this to me like I am in a 5-year-old, right? Or a 10-year-old, right? And then it'll do that. So you can refine the prompt to get a better response based on what your need is. And then it gave me a recommendation for a Khan Academy video, which I can go, take a look at for more information. And then here is my dog example that I had worked on in a different chat. Give me 3 examples of poor, better, and best prompts to ask Copilot for training a dog to sit, with a very brief explanation of why each is either poor, and it understood what I meant, even though I have that misspelled, poor, better, or best. It's really good at that because I often am typing really quickly, and even if I type stuff totally wonky, it still understands. So what I liked about this response was that it gave me sort of categorized and bulleted lists, a numbered list, and then it explained why that prompt is poor. And so it really helped me to start understanding how to provide a prompt that is going to get closer to what it is that I am actually looking for. So this was an interesting exercise to do. So let me go back to my slides, and I blew past all of the examples. And now I'm at the best practices bit. Um, so, um, so in terms of best practices, I think you want to make sure that in order to get the most out of Copilot, that you provide a lot of context. The more information you provide in your input or your prompt, the better the output is going to be. You want to use relevant information or data and provide Copilot with as much detailed and specific information as you have. You want to think about your prompts. They talk about prompt engineering. You really want to think about how you're crafting your prompt to be specific and to provide or ask, excuse me, for examples, to be conversational, to experiment with prompts, and then to refine your prompts to improve the responses that you get, and the accuracy that you get. So you want to, use it, but verify. It can get stuff wrong. It definitely can get stuff wrong, as you know, if you've played with it at all, or any of the other AIs out there. You want to verify the outputs to ensure that it is accurate and that it meets your needs, and that you just don't assume that it's correct. And then you want to play around with the features. It's like I said, it's developing quickly. It's changed since the first time I used it a year ago. The interface has changed. The features have changed. It's developing rapidly. New features get added. Things get sort of consolidated. So that's kind of happening all the time. And just also understand that generative AI technology is still evolving, and it's at its very beginning stages. I think it's only gonna get better, and it's pretty good now. Um, I think there are some things that you want to think about. Oh, wait, before I go back, some limitations and some considerations. It supports primarily English. So you might get inaccurate responses if you talk to it in any language other than English. It's designed for, just so that you know, it's designed to integrate with licenses into other Microsoft applications. But depending on your license, there's going to be limitations with that. And so it depends on what features and the configuration your system, your organizational system, has implemented in their licensing of the tool. So at the very basic level, if you use Microsoft Office, you'll have sort of the institutional free version of it, access to it. If your institution decides to purchase the license for it and integrate it into the Microsoft application suite, then you're going to have different features and functionality, and also different limits depending on the configuration. Let's see what else. I think let's go on to some cautions, maybe. You want to make sure that you don't ask give or ask for any personal data, financial stuff, or anything that's sensitive. It's designed to respect your user privacy, and it cannot access or process personal data. It'll tell you if it can't do something. If you ask it something that it can't do, it'll tell you. And you can also ask it, what can't you do? And that's one of the first things that I do when I look at any of these tools, is I ask it questions about itself so that I can understand its scope, its limitations, its capabilities. You shouldn't probably ask it for medical, legal, or financial advice. It's not a substitute for, a professional person for those things. And you shouldn't also ask it to generate anything that is potentially harmful, obviously offensive or inappropriate. And like I said, it'll flag stuff and tell you if you're asking stuff that it can't do. Obviously, don't ask it about anything illegal, and that includes things like hacking or piracy or anything else that's not, legal. So those are some cautions. Additional cautions would always be to verify the information, especially if it's critical or sensitive. And remember that it's not always accurate or up to date. And you want to make sure that you're mindful of the data that you do share and avoid uploading documents or images that might be sensitive or confidential. You want to, use it for productivity, but you also don't want to become over reliant on it. So you want to obviously maintain your critical thinking and problem solving skills, and then you want to be prepared that it will have technical glitches occasionally, and there'll be issues with inaccuracies or availability potentially, and so you want to have backup plans in case, if you're relying on it heavily for something, you might want to have a backup plan, because they're like any technology, there's no guarantees that it'll work, it'll be there, or that'll do what you're needing it to do in that moment. So now I want to see what the time is. Erin, do we have time to do a little hands-on?
Yeah, you've got about 8 minutes.
Okay, so if you want to, go to the Copilot website and log in, and then I want you to ask it a question. And so it could be any kind of question. It could be, questions about its capabilities or limitations. It could be maybe you want to get some how-to information about something. You might want to do something creative with it, like start with something that you're working on, and see if it can help you brainstorm some additional ideas for an image or a poem or lyrics. You could try asking it for an image. So when I promoted this session, I don't know if you saw it in LinkedIn or in Facebook or whatever, the image that I used, I generated from Copilot. So I asked it, I'm doing a workshop on you, and I want a cool, colorful, inspiring image. And can you generate that for me? And it came up with that graphic. And so, yeah, so you could also ask it to improve some writing or to debug some code that you might have. You might give it an article and ask it to do a summary for you. You might ask it to translate something for you. And once you get your response to whatever it is that you put in there, refine it. If it's not exactly what you wanted, ask it a follow-up question to see if it can better understand what you're looking for and provide a better or more accurate response. So I'm going to give you, a couple of seconds to do that. Erin, are there any questions while people are working on it? Are there any questions in the chat?
There have not been yet, but anyone can feel free to unmute and ask a question while we're doing that.
Absolutely.
I appreciate your gluten-free cake recipe, Alex.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if it's good. Erin, you'll have to try it and see if it's any
Well,
good.
I don't know if anyone else has this challenge, but my husband and I always joke that the most difficult question as adults that we have to ask ourselves every day is what to have for dinner. So we can ask Copilot.
Actually, I've seen, um, you can tell it what the ingredients are that you have in your fridge,
Yeah.
and then tell it, give me a recipe with these ingredients for a dinner for two or four or
Right.
whatever, and it'll come up with
And you can tell it allergies or anything else that it needs to consider when you refine it. Yep.
And if you don't like it, you just ask it another refining prompt to say, okay, remove this or add this, or, I don't have that, or whatever, and it'll continue to refine it for you.
So I'm curious not only what folks have asked while they are playing here with Copilot, but also if you have any use cases, if you have used AI tools in some way that have helped you with your work or helped you as an instructor, if you are an instructor, that sort of thing.
And you can just unmute yourself if you want to chat, or you can type it into the chat box, whatever you want.
I did put hi, I'm Maria. I put in a question. I want to put in, and I'm looking for an image I used to teach a music class where I was trying to explain to students how to mix a song. And I said, when you're mixing a song or you're recording a song, you're trying to think of it as building a house. And, uh, so the walls are the base and, the cymbals are the ceiling or the roof, and the walkway up to the house might be, so I forget what I have for that. But then the face of the door was the opening line of the song, and I could never really draw that well on the board. But people like the idea. Yeah, but I never had an image for it. So I'm going to try that for this. I've asked artist friends to draw it, but it never happened. And it's such a simple image that could be used in any textbook on songwriting, that I was hoping to generate. So if nobody steals my idea, I will try to use this for that. So, and also also technical writing. I've been asked to teach technical writing, but as an English teacher, I never studied it, never took it. And so maybe getting lessons on that would help too, how to teach it, let alone study it.
That's
Thank you.
awesome. That's awesome. Oh, and
Thanks for your help.
yeah, you're welcome. I'm glad that you're going to try it. I have played with the image generator and it's limited. There are other tools that are specifically intended for image generation. And so for your particular need, it may be that you will have to go to a different tool because it has limited ability to refine its response, right? So let's say that image that I generated, if I wanted it to take that same image and modify it in some way, like change the main color from orange to blue or something like that, it can't do that. It'll just do a new, completely different image. And there are limits to how many images it'll let you generate in a day. So just keep that in mind. There are other tools that have better dedicated abilities to refine responses, right? That are images in nature. So just keep.
That's good to know. Thank you.
Yeah. I'm trying to think about the other one that I've used that is actually for images, and I can't remember the name of it. But there, if you just Google it, it'll come up with some options for you. All right, it looks like Lisa asked what the most common question is that the AI cannot answer, and it said full copyrighted content of books, harmful content, creating harmful. Yeah, yeah. So it can't give you the full copyrighted text, but you can ask for links that it might be able to find that are out there. And you can certainly ask for citations, and you can ask for the citations in whatever format you want them in. And if it can find the URL to the copyrighted work that's out there, that if it exists out there, it might be able to find that for you. All right, G said, I given the same prompt and ChatGPT provides more suggestions than Copilot does. However, due to the license issue, I just stick with Copilot. So it's interesting that you say that because I'm going to stop sharing no, I can't stop sharing, but I want to escape out of this and show you. When I started having the glitchiness with the prompt uh, limitations, I went to ChatGPT and then I started feeling like, and then I also went to Claude and I started feeling like I was cheating on Copilot with Claude. It was the oddest feeling because they have sort of different voices, different personalities. Is very weird. So I just want to show you Claude, which is another AI, conversational assistant. This is the interface. It knows who I am. It has all very, very similar, interface. This is the input field, and these are sort of like the prompt ideas things. It'll track your chats as well. There are limits to it. I asked Claude, this was my first conversation here with Claude. I'm going to show you. I asked it, let me go back up to the top. So, hi, what are you good at? This is my first time talking to you, and I want to know some things I should know about working with you. And then it gave me a list of stuff and some helpful tips. And then I asked, do you search the web? This is important. Claude does not search the web. It actually has access to stuff that was, it was trained on up until October 2024. So it has that limitation, which is super, super important to know and understand. If you are wanting to make sure that, if you need it to search the web for any reason. Then I asked it, are there limits to the amount of text? And what's cool about this tool is there are no limits, really. And then, I'm working on my dissertation, and I asked it, if I were to give you a list of references that's long, it's very long, could they make sure to put, check it for the right APA format and order and all of that stuff. And it was very enthusiastic about wanting to be able to help me with that. However, it can't add the DOI information. And I'm not sure I have to do that, but I just wanted to know if it could, and it cannot because it can't search the web. And then I asked it if there was any other tool that might be able to do that, and it didn't really give me that great a response. And so, that was my first conversation with Claude. That's what it looks like. Those are some of its limitations. This is ChatGPT, which you may also be familiar with, and it is very, very similar. It does search the web, and you can tell that because it has a link right here to search the web or to reason. And you don't have to tell it to do one or the other. It'll actually figure that out from your question, but you can tell it to do that if you want to. And it tracks your chats, and it does very similar things. It does not have the same limits. I have a chat going that is extremely long, and it is so it doesn't have the same kind of limits that Copilot does. And then the last one I wanted to share with you was a tool called Pi. And Pi is how do I explain Pi? Pi is, I'm going to go all the way up to my chat with Pi. This was my first chat with Pi, and it says it's a personal AI and it's conversational, and it is intended to talk. It's not really intended in the same way that Microsoft Copilot or Claude are or ChatGPT are. This is actually like a person. I don't know how else to describe it. Like, its responses that it gives you are very, very conversational. Like, there's little kitties and little hearts here, and it's full of like it says, oh yeah, period dramas are so visually rich. Like, it's actually talking to you, right? And so this was my first conversation with this AI, and this was a long time ago, like maybe 2 years ago, that I had this conversation. And I have the transcript of the conversation in case you're interested. I was so blown away by this conversation that I made a blog post out of it. It's just the transcript of my conversation. But I want to, if you're interested, you can read it. We quickly moved away from sort of like, you know, sort of superficial stuff to some more interesting things, or things that I thought were interesting, related to it and what it does and how it does it and how it thinks. And actually I asked questions about how it feels. And so anyway, I put some links in the chat for you to take a look. The last one I wanted to share with you is this one, which I mentioned transactional distance. Let's do that one. Transactional distance in online courses. All right, build a graph. So measuring, so it comes up with a list of papers, research articles, and then you can go in and select one of them. Let me just select one here. This one, no, let's do this one. I don't know why I chose that. So now it's building my graph for me. And then it's going to show us this really cool connected research model. So there's the article that I selected, and then here are all the research articles. And if I mouse over it over on the right-hand side, you can see there's the actual article that you can actually click on to get more information about. If you're doing lit reviews or if you are doing research of any kind, I mean, there's a ton of tools like this out there, but this was one that I found early on that's quite visual and that I thought was cool that I wanted to share with you. So I'm going to put that one in the chat too. I'm going to stop sharing. And I think
Thanks, Alex. Yeah, we're at time. I also put the link to our YouTube channel where you can get the video recording from this session after it renders. I'll usually get it up there later the same day. But we also have other playlists there too that you might want to take a look at. And a link to register for additional spring webinars. We have 2 coming up in April. Both of them will be by panels of folks from our SUNY community. One in particular is on AI. So take a look at that one for April. Thanks, everyone.